Hello, I'm John Grom, and welcome to our 230th Right and Left Discussion Forum. We hold our televised discussions twice monthly to demonstrate the value of civil, productive, open-minded political dialogue. Today, our panel will discuss the question of what might the human reaction be to the appearance on Earth of extraterrestrials. This topic is a particular challenge to the imagination, especially when we work in the political angle. Today, our panel begins with Bryan Laubaugh, president of R&B Financial Services, Dr. Ronald Chamberlin, retired senior research chemist, Tom Finley, retired VP of Human Resource Development at Rubbermaid, and Patty Haskins, former member of the Wadsworth City Council and the faculty of Wadsworth High School. Bryan, there have been countless books and movies made about extraterrestrial invasions, and almost all of them feature hostile invaders and defensive humans who usually lose. What would you expect to be the human reaction now, and what would you hope it to be?
Well, I have to admit that I've been down this rabbit hole.
Oh, you have?
And yes, I have been down this rabbit hole. There have been some movies out. As I've mentioned before, I've listened to Joe Rogan. He's had on some people that have gone way down this rabbit hole. And I guess I'm to the point where I'm not quite sure exactly if there actually has ever been a real unidentified flying object, UFOs. They're calling them now something else, because everything around them seems to be really murky. So let's go down one quick rabbit hole, and that is Area 51. There seems to have been a report from someone that allegedly worked there and saw or talked with somebody that saw an alien that had been recovered from a crash site sometime in the 50s. And they had that alien basically on ice. But there have been no real actual people that have said, I have seen that. They've always been people that have seen it. So that adds some skepticism on my part that some of these things, I think, are a little dubious. And I actually believe that the government really can't keep a secret. I really struggle that for 50 or 60 years, the government has been able to keep a secret about these types of things. My own theory is that there have been aircraft that have been created that have been mistaken as UFOs. So if you go back 20 years and you saw a stealth bomber, you would think that that would have been a UFO.
UFO.
Now, I can see that coming out of Area 51 or the Skunk Works, and people mistaking it because they've never seen anything like that before. If you went back 20 years and saw a Harrier jet that actually can hover at altitude, you would think that that is a UFO. So I'm a little skeptical about the whole UFO thing.
Let me interrupt, Bryan. What would be your reaction, though, if one did land and people got out and looked you in the eye? What do you think you would? What do you think people would do?
Yeah. Here's another rabbit hole. That rabbit hole basically suggests that through the media and Hollywood, they've been preparing us for the eventual contact. Okay. So there have been various movies that have come out, and various people that have reported. And so we're being sort of prepared for the eventual point of contact so that there isn't mass hysteria. Okay. I'm not sure, it's hard enough to get people to pay attention for more than 3 minutes. I'm not sure if people would even, would be like, okay, they're here. We knew about it. We watched, a Steven Spielberg E.T. film. So maybe they might not look like that. We watched.
Let's just put them on welfare and set them up in a hotel.
Well, I believe that there probably are other intelligent beings out there somewhere. I'm not sure if they would have much interest in our planet.
Good point.
I think that they're probably so far advanced. That's where you get the big heads and the big eyes and very little bodies, because they're so advanced, and their cranium has been expanded over, thousands and millions of years, and they're much smarter. So would they really have interest in, they might consider our world kind of prehistoric. Look at those guys. They're still messing around with nuclear, So probably, if it did happen, probably the market would react in a couple of days. You'd probably get a big downdraft because all of a sudden, there are other people out there. But
spoken like a real financial guy.
Well, I'm just saying. I don't have to disclose my conflicts, do I? But no, I really, this whole topic, it's great. It's a great hobby, but smarter people than me have said, I'm just not convinced that any of the evidence really holds up. So to go to that extreme and say, what happens if,
well, that's where we are with this topic. And Ron, this was a hobby for you at one time. Now the question is, how do you think human beings would react if ETs showed up on our planet?
John, I'm a little pessimistic about that, and I'll get into that in a second. Yeah, as a real scientist, rather than a conspiracy theorist, I recognize the extreme improbability that there any kind of interstellar travel has or will happen in the near future, based on our current technology, at least. And Einstein appears to be right that a limit of speed in the universe is the speed of light, and how immeasurably immense the universe is. And as Bryan says, sure, there's a good probability that there are other civilizations out there somewhere, whatever they might look like or whatever basis they have. But you read something occasionally as a science fiction reader. Still today, I've been willing to do what somebody described as a willing suspension of disbelief. Enjoy the genre, enjoy the various ramifications, but sometimes you read a story that just resonates with you. And I probably read this many years ago. I think it was probably back during the intense civil rights disturbances that we were having in the 60s and 70s. And it was based probably pretty much on that. Well, the scenario was that the aliens have landed, and they have been accepted pretty much by U.S. governments. They are benign. They obviously have superior technology because they're here and we're not there. And so they send their ambassadors and their spouses, husband and wife, teams out around the countries. So the story is set in the southern United States, in a hilly region, probably something like western Georgia or Alabama. It's not really specified, but they're in a small town, this couple. And the aliens have been pretty much accepted. They pretty much look like us. They're bipedal, they're bilateral symmetry, they're built pretty much like us. One particular difference, though, their skin is a bright shade of blue. So they're in this.
Well, that ought to help them stand out.
It would help them stand out, but there's recognizable that they ain't from here. But so they're traveling around in this small town, and they're accosted by a group of ruffians. Both of them are severely beaten. The woman is raped and ultimately perishes, dies. So there's that. The governments and the official people officially accepted them, but there is a core of people who, and they're using epithets which usually have been described for the Black population against these people as they're being beaten up. And when the gentleman recovers, he does not. The local government is so concerned that he's going to report to the superiors. They're going to come down upon them. He says, "No, I'm not going to do that. I will be magnanimous." But he's not. He also shows a very human response: revenge. One of the little bits of technology they were going to offer is a little device that can modify the atmosphere, make it rain. Goes up into the hills, plants this thing, turns it on, and floods out the town. So I see that I'm pessimistic that humans in general probably will not respond positively to this. They will be too different, and that response of us to the other will kick in. And this particular author says, well, okay, they have also, the aliens have human characteristics, and so they're subject to revenge and retribution as well. So
yeah. So your answer is that you think the humans would respond?
I think we would respond negatively. I think in general the average person will not accept this.
Yeah, Tom, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are very positive. I think that I went to religion or to God right away and said, if aliens, and I just like the word, but if aliens did arrive here, God had something to do with that. And it would be a positive approach that I would take relative to the receptivity and the treatment of these people from outer space. And so I would be looking at a very positive thing, and not a negative, not a fearful one. And what can we learn very quickly from these aliens, if you will? And the list goes on. If you look at it from a positive, what language are they speaking? How? And the list of questions is there. So I think it would be tremendous if it happened, and probably lead to many things that would make our world safer and better.
Well, you're quite an optimist on this subject. I would hope that you're right. And Patty, what are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I think that our idea of what aliens look like is really tempered by what we've seen in the movies and read in books. I really believe if there are aliens or life on other planets, we have no idea what that type, shape, or thing is. Our response as a country or as a world to that is displayed in many movies in different ways. In Independence Day, all the nations, including China and Russia and the United States, all worked together to destroy the aliens. In War of the Worlds, everybody worked together to destroy the aliens. In Men in Black. In Men in Black, aliens just live amongst us, and we don't even realize they're there. In Close Encounters of the Third Kind, they were friendly, and we learned from them and sent people back with them to learn what they know. How we actually would react, I think, though, we have some experience with that because of the radio broadcast of War of the Worlds, which I think was 1939, Orson Welles. And
in October.
Pardon me?
No, it was 19th October of 38.
38? Okay. And even though it was announced at the beginning that this was not real, some people tuned in later, although I guess they kept broadcasting that, but they thought it was true. And there was rioting by people. And I think there were some deaths involved because we were being invaded by Martians. So I'm not sure our response would be stoic. Whether we would work together with all of the world, I'm not sure. I guess cynically, I think there are those that would just simply want to build a wall around the United States and over top of us to keep the aliens out. but that's not going to help. So that's just kind of where I come from.
Yeah, the topic makes me think about that song. Don't try that in a small town.
Well,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I would like to comment on Patty's. This is the softening. This is the other conspiracy, is that Hollywood has been used to soften our views as toward aliens. Because
Yeah, I've heard that.
the first ones were, we're getting attacked. They want to eat the planet, take over your bodies, all that kind of stuff. And so, you have to admit that Hollywood does have an effect on people and the consciousness of people. So E.T. comes out, and it's this little Reese's M&M peanut eating, friendly little thing that you can hide in your closet. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, same thing. Other, Men in Black sort of conditioning us that, hey, they're here. We just don't know that they're here. So those are some of those conspiracy rabbit holes that every now and again, if you'd like to go down, you're welcome to. But I really, smarter people than me say, they really doubt that they would be interested, that there would be anything here that would interest them.
Yeah. And again, because we don't know what aliens would look like or what form another life form would take. They're not going to look like E.T. or like, the beings that were in Close Encounters. We don't know. And
God's creation. And
right.
let's assume that they could teach us things like controlling the weather, controlling disease, etc. And the list goes on. If you look at it in a positive way, and I try to look at it from God's standpoint, it wasn't by accident that they were placed here, and the list goes on, and then in intelligence and what they know and learn and can teach us, et cetera, et cetera. So I was looking at the tremendous possibilities this would open up to moving our civilization forward into a much more positive position.
Oh God, I hope you're
Because it's just immeasurably immense out there, just so terribly far, millions and millions and billions of years to get anywhere across our galaxy. It's just, I mean, the closest planet that we know of is 4 light years away, and that's a long distance. So if any scenario which involves any travel of at least as we know it, and even in the Star Trek thing where you go into warp 9 times the speed of light, that's still minute compared to the distances that are there. So as a practical scientific way, I don't think it's at all probable. I mean, it's worse odds than playing Powerball. It's just probably not going to happen to you. So
yeah, I've heard that perhaps there is another Earth out there. That's kind of
back in the late 40s. There was a movie called The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Oh, I love that movie, Michael Rennie.
Yes. Well, the theme there was that the people on the planet that Michael Rennie came from had made an observation about the technology that was changing in the United States, that now we had an atomic bomb and rocketry and all of that. And the planet that he came from was part of a group of planets, a commission, if you will. And they began to worry. I mean, they've been watching the Earth for many, many years, and we're not the least bit concerned because we were not a threat. But now they were concerned that we might be a threat. If we had the atomic bomb and rocketry, eventually we might become a threat to other planets. So they sent a ship to Earth to tell us that, to warn us. And when the ship finally left, it was with the warning that we're going to keep watching you. But if you continue to act in a threatening manner, we'll just end you.
Right, because they had developed a group of robots that were totally
Right.
autonomous as far as controlling what the violence that goes on in the world. So
Yeah, but that movie tends to answer the question: why would anybody with the technology to fly light years, transport themselves light years to this planet? Why would they want to bother? We don't have anything to offer somebody with that kind of technology.
We just blow ourselves up. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
what are they'd just see, like, they wouldn't even see a little poof in the universe, you know, be like, oh, well, you know.
Yeah.
Now, I did want to bring up, there have been some recent sightings from some very credible sources. I don't know if you've read up on this, but there is a Navy fighter pilot and his wingman. When they upgraded their avionics and radar capabilities in their jets, they started to pick up unidentified flying objects. They call them something else. They've put a term on them. I can't remember right off that. But he said that they were able to lock on to this, and he's not sure. He's not saying it was an alien craft or anything. He said, but it clearly was not manned by a human, because it went from like 60,000 feet down to 500 feet above the water in a matter of seconds. He said, we couldn't even dive that fast to keep up with this thing. And then it went from 500 feet all the way back up to 60,000 feet, like it was vertical. I mean, it was just crazy, like faster than a rocket. And then it just made just circles around them and was so fast that he said there would be no human that could withstand the gravity, the G-forces in that thing. And they're not sure. He said, you know, was it a drone? He said, and his concern is, we're flying around out there, you know, at Mach 2. What if we were to hit something like that? What if we had a collision? You know, obviously it's going to be catastrophic. So his point was, we want to know what's flying around in our airspace. And I don't know if you picked up, it was several years ago, the Nimitz had some very interesting encounters with unidentified flying objects over a series of days. So there are aircraft or, you know, objects out there that are so far superior to what we know of at this point in time. And what people are trying to figure out is who did this? Who, you know, where did they come from? And what's the technology? Is it our technology? Is it, you know, something coming out of Skunk Works? Is it Chinese? So that's where a lot of this gets, you know, wrapped up into aliens and UFOs and all that kind of stuff. So
sociologists have pointed out that the UFO things in the 50s were pretty much a direct result of the Cold War. The idea of people's fears about this, and this is a thing. The other possibility of all these observations are electronic glitches in your equipment. You know, this
could be.
So none of you have a clear imagination of how the human race would respond to aliens. Is that what I hear?
What my imagination is.
Yeah.
A response would be, you know.
I really tend to think that they would be so far down, they're so far more intelligent than us that they wouldn't want to shock our system, you know, by showing up like in that one movie with the, you know, when the world stood still, he comes out and he's got the big, what was that? What was the robot's name? Bactu or something like what? Orc. Yeah. I don't think they want that. I don't think they want to disturb us. It's kind of like that, Prime Directive in Star Trek, you know, don't interfere, just observe type of thing. So I think that would be my inclination, but, you know, I'm not a physicist or anything like that. So,
well, I think that it would be far-fetched to even imagine that any people that had the technology to get here would have a reason to come to planet Earth. unless Tom could agree that maybe they came to spread God's word.
Well, some of those scenarios too. They're here because their planet is running out of resources and they want ours. That's another fairly common theme in sci-fi literature.
We'll send them a bunch of electric cars.
There you go.
Because we're not selling them. They're not selling in this country.
We have evil people here on Earth, and that have power, want to make power grabs and take over countries. I guess it isn't too far-fetched to think that if there were beings in outer space, that there would be some character flaws there as well, and those that simply want to overtake our world as a power grab. So that's
on this planet,
maybe they're not. Maybe they're past that. Maybe they've learned from God or their God, which I hope is our God, and they have moved in such positive ways that we have nothing to fear, just the opposite. That's what I tend to believe, and I'm comfortable with it. So.
Okay. I'll give you.
Let me just say, if you want to watch a good one, it's The Abyss with Ed Harris. That's a great science fiction one where they were on the bottom of the ocean. I don't know how many thousands of feet. The end of the movie, they come up and they're this advanced race. They don't look anything like us. But that's a good one if you're looking for something to watch on a rainy Saturday afternoon. The Abyss. It's got a lot of good actors in it. And
The Abyss.
The Abyss. Yes, The Abyss.
That's a
good one with Ed Harris.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for another good program. Just an advance warning. Our next program, I've been working on this topic, and it is it's another topic about global warming or climate change. And are we taking into account the impact on our climate of the solutions that we're coming up with to climate change? In other words, are we just making matters worse or being neutral? What are the, just taking solar and wind, for instance, are they really improving our environment? That would be sort of the question. So thank you very much, folks.
Thank you, John.
You are watching WCTV, Wadsworth Community Television.